Hey folks, welcome back to Learn from Dad. I'm James. We're going to be doing something I've been waiting for a period of time until the weather cooled down. We're going to be splitting some firewood. So follow along as we show you the process of what we do and how we split firewood so we can stay warm in the winter. Okay, so step number one, get yourself a nice warm cup of coffee. Take your time on a Saturday morning. This is something that should be enjoyed. I only do this once every couple years because I do a whole bunch at one time. I stock it away, I let it dry, and then I use it for a period of time. The second step is to make sure you've got some good help. So I've got my brothers coming here today. They're going to give me a hand. It's a nice way for us to reconnect, have fun. They take firewood all they want, and we just get to have a good time together, and then nieces and nephews and my kids get to play and have a good time. The next step is to make sure you have yourself a nice pile of logs to cut. So this is stuff that I have taken off my own property when we did some clearing. A bunch of this is from when I've done tree cutting over the last couple of years. A lot of this is ash, the poor emerald ash borer that's killed all these trees. If you haven't seen the emerald ash borer before, it actually creates an amazing pattern on the wood. It's so destructive, but it's almost a thing of art. So great firewood, it's never rotten. So you might also wonder, if you're cutting that much wood, where do you store it all? Well, one of the things I've done for the last several years is I use these old chemical totes. I go to the local farmers cooperative and I'm often able to get these for free. I take the insides out, the poly tote, I give it away, and then I can move these around with my skid loader and my pallet forks, and it's great. They're meant to be stacked. They can contain a huge amount of weight and not deform. And when I'm ready to use them for the winter, I take my skid loader and I haul them up, put them in my garage, got all the firewood I want. So you can see here some other chemical totes. These have been sitting in here for 2 or 3 years, so that wood's nice and dry. Now when I run out of space in my chemical totes, which I've only got 3 empty, I've got an old building here. It's just actually a tiny little old garage. Oh, hey Archie. So we just throw it in here loose, and then when we're ready to use it, we load it up, take it up to the house, take it camping, give it away, let our friends use it. It's kind of a nice little community thing. So the next step is get your equipment all set up. So today what we're going to be using is actually my dad's log splitter from probably 15 or 20 years ago when he bought a brand new one from Northern Tool. And I still have it, and we still use it, and it still runs great. I can't remember the tonnage on it. I think it's a 30 or 35 ton. Nice little Honda engine on it. The cat's coming to help. We'll also use my skid loader, T300. We'll put the forks on to be able to move the log splitter around, move the totes around. And then I also bring the bucket over, and with the bucket we throw all the bark and small chunks and things we don't want, end pieces that are weird that we don't really want to mess with in the splitter, and we'll take them over and we'll dump them in the burn pile. I bring so much wood home from when I do tree work that I've got the luxury of only using the stuff that's straight, nice. Some of the big odd chunks we'll throw off to the side, used for campfire wood. If you want a big, huge log, throw on top. Otherwise, with splitting them, they're kind of a pain in the neck, so I avoid them because I can. Let's start moving some equipment around. First things first, gotta make sure oil's good. Yep. So I need to do some maintenance on this thing. So check our hydraulic fluid. Fuel I know is good. The fuel sensor in this thing doesn't work because a mouse ate it off, started his nest on fire, and literally started the skid loader on fire while I was driving it. No joke. Funny story for another day, but just climbed to my skid loader to start it, and it smells like mouse, and that never makes me happy. It's so frustrating. Next, we're gonna dump the forks off. We're gonna go over and grab my biggest bucket I have, my tooth bucket. Okay, so we're just gonna stay parked right here. That way when I'm operating on this side with the log splitter, I can throw bark and chunks and junk over here, and then when my brothers are picking up stuff, they can throw it in, and we'll just keep taking it back to the burn pile as we need to. Time to go fuel up the log splitter, cut up some of those logs, and get them prepped and ready to go. It's always interesting every time I operate a piece of equipment what I find. I've been looking for this water bottle for like a month. Jackpot. While we're at it, get your bucket locked on. Will it start? Well, it ran the last time that I used it, so it should this time. Go figure. So let's check oil and all that good stuff and see, make sure it's in good shape. I really need to change the oil in this thing. So yep, there's oil draining out of it. I'm biased a little bit downhill towards myself, so there is a little bit of fuel in it. I need to dump some fresh in here. Oh, there's actually quite a bit. I'm going to dump some seafoam in there as well. Let's see, get my fuels on, chokes on. Look at that, second pull. My dad would be so proud. I built this table on it a couple years ago because I hated splitting big chunks and half of it would fall off. So I added this on, pretty simple little scrap metal fab. That way I can lay half my log up here, split the other half. The other thing I did, I always had problems with, this was a smooth plate on the end. And as I'd split the log, it would have a tendency to push up sometimes if it wasn't a perfect cut. So I threw some really crappy beads of weld on here, and that does a nice job of grabbing and gripping that wood and preventing it from sliding up. All right, so we got to grab our stuff to go cut some logs. So oil, gas, mixed gas that is, chainsaw chaps, just so you don't cut your legs off. I'm going to be running one of my MS461 steel saws today, 25-inch bar. If I need to with some of the big logs, I'll grab my big saw, which is a MS661 steel. It's got a 36-inch bar on it, powerhouse of a saw, but usually I like to run these 461s. They're excellent, love them to death, especially with a 25-incher on it. They just plow through anything. We'll make sure we remember our other safety equipment. I'm an earphone kind of, or earmuff kind of guy. I hate sticking earplugs in my ears, but got some earplugs for my brother, safety glasses. Okay, so we're gonna take and put some seafoam inside of our fuel tank. This fuel's been in here for probably a year and a half. It was stabilized before, it seems to run fine, but this will help keep the fuel system clean and the top side of the engine. This wouldn't start before, so I did have to pull the carburetor off here maybe a month or two ago, and the jet was plugged. So clean the jet out, got it back running, measure precisely. I'm doing this with one hand, so no, it's not exactly the easiest thing. Throw some extra fuel in it, and we'll be ready. So we're gonna start this thing, we'll let it idle while we cut some logs. If you haven't run a log splitter before, the axle itself is the reservoir, so that's all hydraulic fluid in there, and it pulls it up from the suction line into the pump, sends it up to your control valve. This is an open center control valve. So what happens is if you're not running anything, like right now, that little bit of fluid that's coming up goes through the open center and goes right back through the filter on the return side back into the axle reservoir. And then when I want to actually run it, this thing might kill the engine, I push the control valve forward, extends out, so that fluid is being redirected. Instead of going just through the open center back, it's being directed to the base end of the cylinder to push the cylinder. Now I can also go backwards, right? So it's all about where that oil goes, either back through the return, to the base end of the cylinder to push, to the rod end of the cylinder to retract. This particular valve, and most valves in log splitters, they have an auto return, so you can push it back and hold it. When it hits high pressure, oop, killed the engine. So that handle flipped forward, so it stops it. So you're able to put it in reverse, let it back up, and I can walk away, grab another piece while it brings itself back. When I go to cut the logs, what I usually am trying to do is I want it to fit one log here and one log here. It's approximately 20 inches that I can put in there with a little bit of space in the middle. That fits good in my particular fireplace. If we have big other chunks, we throw them off to the side. We just use those for camp firewoods. Okay, so got a whole bunch of logs cut, ready to start throwing them on the splitter. It's also perfect time to stop because as I was going through this log, I think I hit something down below and my chain all of a sudden got really dull. Sometimes when I'm taking trees out for people, you just never know what's growing in the middle of them. I've hit fence posts before, I've hit nails, there's all kinds of stuff. You don't know what's going to be in it. This happens. This is a tree that was from a residence, and that's an old nail that was in there. They hung something up and I hit it with my saw. Let's fire up the log splitter and get to splitting. So the splitter just died. I think we might have sucked something into the carburetor. So our second shift just showed up. What's in the coffee mug?
Black coffee.
Tell you what, this is pretty all right. This is what it's like to be a dad. Except those aren't my kids, those are my brothers. Just let them do all the work. I'm gonna start cutting up some more logs so that we can keep feeding them while they're splitting up more wood. So we got 3 crates filled up. Gotta dump the skid loader out. I got a whole pile of miscellaneous logs and stuff that are good campfire stuff. Start filling the building up here next, but it was a great morning. Glad I had some help from my brothers. 1, it's nice to have help. 2, it's fun to just hang out with them. My kids got to play with their cousins, which is a lot of fun. So we're gonna pause. We're gonna head into town. My niece is playing some soccer, so that'll be a good time. So thanks for watching along. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe, follow along if you want. More content to come. Again, I'm James with Learn from Dad. Stay curious, friends.
With it now.
pass on.
Lauren.
Go with her, Green, go with her. Go with her,
Stay
Green.
with it, stay